When I was young, my father passed away, and since then, my mother raised me by herself. Even during financially tough times, she made sure I graduated from college. No amount of gratitude would ever be enough for what she's done for me. Although I've been a handful, I was looking forward to showing my mother my bridal look. I could never have imagined that tragic event that would happen on my wedding day. The story I am about to share is an unbelievable but true event that my mother and I experienced. My name is Emily and I am 28 years old this year. I was set to marry Tom, my boyfriend. Tom and I met at a mixer, and even though it was our first meeting, we hit it off right away. He graduated from a prestigious national university and had a prideful side, often flaunting his accomplishments. However, he was very thoughtful, always planning our dates meticulously, ensuring we always had a wonderful time. For instance, on my birthday, he surprised me with a reservation at a fancy restaurant and an unexpected luxurious bouquet. Even when I took him to my favorite pub, he immediately started looking at fancier pubs, promising to take me there next time. Sometimes I felt his way of expressing himself was a bit sharp, but I believed it was just part of his character and accepted it. To someone introverted like me, his bold decisions and proactive nature felt incredibly appealing. All my ex-boyfriends before Tom never really had strong opinions of their own, so Tom's clear-cut personality stood out even more. For that reason, Tom's intellectual demeanor looked incredibly charming and attractive to me. Every time we spent together on a date, I felt cherished and loved, and I thought nothing could make me happier. I loved him so much that his prideful behaviors and remarks didn't bother me much. I lost my father when I was young. It has been just my mother and me managing to get by ever since. So I thought that by marrying Tom, I could finally put my mother at ease. After receiving a proposal from Tom, I quickly met my mother to share the joyful news. "Mom, there's something I'd like to talk to you about." "Huh? What? Being so formal, isn't that a bit embarrassing?" "Well, I've been dating this guy for a while, and he proposed to me. So I've decided to get married." "What? Emily, you're getting married!" My mother was taken aback, her eyes wide in surprise. It wasn't unreasonable. Even though I had told her about someone I was dating, I had never brought up the topic of marriage. "Emily, is this true?" "Yes, it's true. I've finally found someone I want to spend the rest of my life with." As I said that with a smile, my mother, seeing my happiness, seemed to be relieved. "If you are happy with someone wonderful, then I'm happy too." Seeing the tears in my mother's eyes, I realized just how much she cared for me. Looking at my joyful mother, I decided in my heart that after getting married, I would build a happy family with him. Half a month later, Tom came to my house to formally introduce himself as my fiancé. As my mother and I waited at home, Tom, who had groomed himself neatly, arrived. "Nice to meet you, ma'am. I'm Tom Johnson. I've been dating Emily." "It's a pleasure. I'm Emily's mother. Please come in." My mother then led Tom into the living room and brewed some tea. Just when I thought the formal introductions would begin, Tom suddenly said something I never expected. "Don't worry, ma'am. If I marry Emily, she'll live a life without any hardships and be happy, haha." "Excuse me?" Suddenly, his condescending tone and words clouded my mother's face. I was also caught off guard, not expecting him to say something like that. "Ma'am, I meant, even though Emily doesn't have a high educational background, I graduated from a top-tier university, so if she marries me, she will have a comfortable and happy life. That's what I was trying to say." "I see. You do have quite an impressive academic and professional background, Tom, she said with a smile, but I quickly realized it was just for show. I could tell that deep down she wasn't impressed with him at all. And Tom kept on bragging about his achievements endlessly. Both of my parents are university graduates with a high educational background. By the way, all my relatives are elites. Speaking of which, ma'am, you graduated from high school, right? Yes, my family was poor and I had a younger brother. It was financially difficult for us to attend university. I see. That must have been tough. But don't worry, if Emily marries me, our children will surely be elites. Rest assured, they won't just have a high school education like you. Oh, well, if that's the case, I'm looking forward to the future. Watching my mother's face twist with discomfort as she listened, I felt increasingly uneasy. I can't take it anymore. I can't listen to this any longer. With that thought, I gently whispered into Tom's ear, urging him to stop. Hey, can we just end the conversation here? I'm sorry, but can you go home for today? Huh? Why? I haven't finished everything I wanted to say. Despite talking so much, Tom seemed dissatisfied, as if he still had more to say. You came here for our marriage discussion, right? But all you've done is brag about yourself and your family. I just want to reassure your mother that everything will be all right if you marry me. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with? It was unexpected. I never realized he was so obvious to the moon around him. Even without my mother mentioning it, I felt she probably wasn't pleased with the idea of marrying Tom. Somehow, I managed to send Tom home and apologize to my mother for his rudeness. Mom, I'm sorry he was so rude. He's a very prideful person and sometimes his words come off as prickly. Saying this, my mother looked at me with a worried expression, showing concern for me. I'm not particularly bothered, but are you sure about this, Emily? Do you truly love him enough to marry him? Indeed, my mother didn't have a good impression of him. I'm sorry for making you worry, but I truly do love him. If that's what you say, then I understand. I will support you, so do your best. My mother said that with a warm smile. While she probably had many concerns deep down, she chose to prioritize my feelings and support me. Regardless of my mother's feelings, I didn't have the slightest intention of calling off my engagement with Tom. To me, he was that important. After that, preparations went smoothly, and before we knew it, the wedding was just 2 months away. One day, as RSVPs from the invitees started to arrive, I got a call from high school friend Catherine. Hello, Emily. It's been a while. Thanks for the wedding invitation. I'll definitely be there. Catherine, long time no see. Have you been well? Thank you for calling. What's up? Well, there's something I wanted to ask you about. Catherine's voice, initially nostalgic, suddenly became mumbled and unclear. Her sudden change in tone struck me as odd, so I decided to directly ask her what was on her mind. Hey, Catherine, what's wrong? You seem to change all of a sudden. What did you want to ask? She paused for a moment, then with a determination, she told me. Actually, the person you are marrying might have dated someone I know in the past. Really? I'm not certain, but maybe. If he's the same guy, I'm sorry, but I might not be genuinely happy for you. I've heard he's prideful and looks down on people. Someone who's overly prideful and looks down on others. As much as I didn't want to admit it, that description did match Tom's behavior and personality. True, I've noticed that he can be prideful at times, but he's never looked down on me or treated me that way. Hearing my words, Catherine quickly apologized and tried to take back what she had said. Right, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have brought up something like this during such a happy occasion. There are many people with the same names out there. I probably misunderstood. I'm sorry for bringing it up. Saying that, Catherine hurriedly hung up the phone. Though a shade of anxiety lingered, the wedding was just 2 months away. Trying to suppress the uneasy feeling within me, I carried on with the wedding preparations. And then, the day of the wedding finally arrived. At the venue, I couldn't find my mother and Tom anywhere. Even though I thought they had already arrived, I began to panic. Why? The ceremony will start soon. As I frantically searched, I heard voices that sounded like an argument. Approaching the source, I saw my mother, Tom, and even my in-laws all engaged in a heated dispute. Sensing the tense atmosphere, I hid myself and watched from the distance. Why, isn't it strange that there's no seat for me? The voice speaking was my mother's. Huh? There's no seat for my mother? That's impossible. I'm certain I arranged it during the preparations. I waited for Tom to explain, trusting he would clear things up. But then, he began to say something I never expected. Your mother only graduated from high school, right? Just being a high school graduate is embarrassing enough. So, of course, we can't invite her. I mean, Emily, you barely graduated from college. But I overlooked that. Inviting your mother is just out of the question. What? Did he really just say that? This has to be a joke. Tom, what are you thinking? After claiming he wanted to provide a respectable life after our marriage and put my mother at ease, how could he now say this? Recalling that, I felt a deep-seated anger bubbling within me. And then his mother added fuel to the fire. Like mother, like daughter, I suppose. Well, I made a compromise for Emily because she has a somewhat pretty face, letting her be my son's wife? I never imagined the mother of my highly educated son's fiancé would just be a high school graduate. How utterly embarrassing. There's no way she can sit with us at the wedding. Yeah, totally. It's just too embarrassing to be seen with her. Tom, looking down on her, agreed with what his mother said. When you mentioned it was hard to send her to college because of her younger brother, I thought, what a poor family. Our backgrounds are so different. After I marry Emily, I'd like to cut ties and not be associated with you. Wait, cut ties? You can't be serious. Emily is becoming a part of our family. We don't want someone with your law educational background causing us in trouble. Today is Emily's, my daughter's big day. Can't you at least let me attend my own daughter's wedding? Regardless of what you say, there's no seat for a high school graduate and a poor person like you. Just go home, will you? Is this a joke? How can this be happening? Not only Tom, but to think even his parents would speak to my mother in such a condescending and mocking manner. They've always been so kind to me, but then it hit me. The kindness they've shown me and from his parents was all a facade. I felt a surge of anger like never before. I can't forgive Tom and his parents. To say such horrible things to my dear mother. Enough! I'm calling off this wedding! As I shouted that, everyone was taken aback and the atmosphere went cold. What? You can't just cancel it now! Do you realize you're getting married to me? What are you saying? Tom, red with rage, raised his voice, and his parents started to hastily speak up. That's right, Emily, think it over! You have an important role to bear in the air. Without that, the marriage is pointless. Exactly. Deciding to cancel the wedding with Tom now. We absolutely won't allow such absurdity. Quiet! Stop making excuses! Shut up! My scream echoed throughout the venue. You think I can just say, alright, understood, and go on with this wedding when you've mocked my mother like this? Because she only graduated from high school? She doesn't deserve a seat? What is that about? I refuse to be part of such a wedding. Emily, it's okay. Don't worry about me. Just calm down. Trying to calm my emotions, I spoke while pulling on my mother's hand. Mom, it's fine. Let's go home. Hey, Emily, where do you think you're going? What are you doing? The wedding's about to start.
Exactly. This is absolutely unacceptable.
Ignoring their remarks, as my mother and I were about to leave the venue, we bumped into Catherine. I had a feeling this might happen. Catherine? Why are you here? Well, I arrived earlier than I thought. But it's good that I came. So, Emily, your fiancé, is that Tom? Oh, long time no see, isn't it? Tom's father and mother? Seeing Catherine, Tom and his parents suddenly went pale and looked flustered. What's the connection between Catherine and them? Catherine, what's going on? To my question, Catherine scratched her head, looking awkward. Emily, I'm sorry. This guy isn't just an acquaintance's ex-boyfriend. He's my ex. I hid that from you. The moment we decided to get married, he started looking down on me and my family. Really, he hasn't changed at all.
Catherine? Oh, I remember the women without any notable degree.
In response to Tom's rude comment, Catherine replied with a laugh. You say that, but both of your parents only graduated from high school, didn't they? He, person she couldn't genuinely be happy for, that Catherine mentioned on the phone, turned out to be Tom himself. Moreover, the stories of Tom's parents being elites were completely false. In fact, both of them had only graduated from high school, just like my mother. Emily, it's surely a good thing you found out before the wedding. For the sake of your mother and your future, you should never marry someone like him.
How can you? This is my and Emily's wedding. You have no right to interfere, do you?
Catherine quickly retorted to Tom's counterattack. Huh? What are you even saying? Just stand by and watch when I know my best friend is about to face unhappiness? I'm not that cold-hearted. Oh, and by the way, Catherine, rummaging through her bag, pulled out her smartphone. She then started to play a recording at a volume loud enough for everyone in the venue to hear.
Your mother only graduated from high school, right? It's embarrassing just being a high school graduate. How could I possibly invite her to the wedding?
Well, a frog's child is a frog after all. But I suppose Emily is fairly pretty. That's why I reluctantly accepted her as my son's bride. The played recording was of the rude remarks that were just directed at the mother a moment ago. Could this be the conversation from earlier? Exactly! It's the rude comments this foolish family made about you guys earlier. Using this recording, even the wedding cancellation fee could be shouldered by their family. I'm so glad I decided to record it just in case. Catherine truly is something else. Having been involved with Tom up until just before the wedding, she knows him and his parents' personalities well. The fact that she recorded them on the spot is commendable. Seeing Catherine's actions, my mother and I exchanged glances and couldn't help but laugh together. Emily, now you see his true colors, right? His kind and charming act only lasts at the beginning. In reality, he's an awful man who looks down on others because of his high educational background. I remembered the dreamy state I was in during our days, enchanted by his kindness, and I felt deeply embarrassed. What I thought was his strong will and reliability turned out to be mere bragging, a display of his belief in his own greatness. I deeply regretted not catching the discomfort I felt the first time Tom was rude and overbearing when he met my mother. Riding Catherine's wave of energy, I boldly said to Tom, I can't marry someone as terrible as you. Therefore, I'm canceling this marriage. Hearing my words about canceling the marriage, he collapsed to the ground. His parents, too, were so shocked that they could only open and close their mouth, at a loss for words. As a result, the wedding was cancelled, and thanks to the audio recording Catherine had made, Tom had to pay all the cancellation fees and damages due to the broken engagement. I'm endlessly grateful to Catherine for having the presence of mind to record at the moment. To make matters worse for him, it turns out that his boss had overheard our loud argument. Naturally, news of his despicable behaviors spread quickly throughout his company, and despite his boast about being an elite employee, it turns out he was just an ordinary staff member.
Hey, did you hear? Tom apparently had his engagement called off on the day of the wedding. Ah, seriously? He's already disliked by his colleagues. Now even his fiancée hates him. That's the worst. Despite his already arrogant and condescending nature that made him an outlier in the workplace, the situation surrounding his broken engagement made his treatment even worse. His high pride couldn't withstand such a work environment, and he ended up resigning as if to escape from it. As for what he's doing after resigning, he doesn't seem to be re-employed. Instead, he's been cooped up at his parents' home, fully dependent on them. I'm glad I came to know the true nature of that man before getting married and was able to break off the engagement. Catherine and I have been keeping in touch regularly since then, updating each other about our lives. Man, Emily, it's a good thing you didn't marry that jerk. Absolutely. It's all thanks to you, Catherine. If you hadn't been there for me, thank you so much. I almost feel for that guy too, you know? Well, it's good neither of us ended up in such a situation. True that. My mother also seems to be very grateful to Catherine.
And the three of us have been going out to eat together more often, starting over from scratch after the wedding plans fell apart. I wonder when I will be able to give my mother peace of mind. The greatest act of filial piety for me is seeing Emily live happily and healthily. Hearing those words, I decided not to rush into marriage out of obligation. I hope to continue living each day happily and cherishingly, cooperating with my mother.